Hey, what's up guys, Soldier Knows Best here. Now, I do believe that we will never see a perfect smartphone. A phone that doesn't have any flaws, we're not gonna see that. But I do believe in every year there being a phone that's gonna be perfect for you. And I have to say that the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus is going to be a perfect phone for a lot of people. And so I know you're interested into why I'm saying this, so just going to get this review started and first take a look at the design of the phone. And so as far as color options, you can get this phone in prism white, black, and blue, and also flamingo pink, and they have a couple of ceramic options that come in black and white. But for this video, I'm showing you the S10 Plus in the prism white color, which I do like the way it looks because it kind of shimmers in a little bit of a gold or tan look when you put it out in sunlight or you have a direct light source hit it. So it kind of grew on me and I really do like it. And Samsung also did a good job at making the kind of intersection where the glass on the front and the back of the phone meet with the frame smoother. It's more seamless to where when you do pick up the S9 Plus, you have a significant hump there on the edge of the phone. But now with this S10 Plus, it just feels like it's one solid piece. Now, as far as button placement, on the left-hand side, you have the volume and Bixby buttons. And on the right-hand side, you have the power button. Now I do wish that Samsung would bring the placement of these buttons down because I find myself having to readjust my grip on this phone in order to reach the power and the volume buttons a lot more. So if they would just bring those down just maybe a half an inch, I think that would be a lot better. Now, one new thing with the Bixby button is that now you do have a little bit more control over it. So you still can't remap it to another virtual assistant like the Google Assistant. So you're still stuck with Bixby, but you can now have it set up when you press it once or press it twice to open up one of your favorite apps. Like for me, I have it set up to just one press and it will open up Instagram. Or I can set it up to run a quick command, which is a set of actions that normally I would have to tell Bixby to do it, like tell it that I'm driving. But now I can set it up to when I just press that button once or twice, it will go ahead and just start to run that particular quick command. Now, when you look at the top and the bottom of the phone, you will see two things making a return. The first thing is going to be the headphone jack on the bottom, and the second thing is the micro SD card slot at the top. Now, you either don't see any of these features on phones these days, or you may just see one of these making a return on the phone. So it's good to see that Samsung is keeping both of these, and it keeps a lot of people happy. And with that micro SD card slot, you can add an additional 512 gigabytes to your storage. And if you add that to the fact that you can get a Galaxy S10 Plus with up to 1 terabyte of internal storage, you can have a lot of room to store a lot of movies, games, or whatever else you want to put on your phone. And so spec-wise, this phone also has some other impressive things with it because it does support Wi-Fi 6. A lot of routers don't have that these days, but it is kind of future-proof. And then this phone does start with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and you can go up to 12 as you upgrade. And all these phones do have that Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 inside of it that's going to be powering a lot of these new features that you find inside of this phone. And so one of those new features is the new ultrasonic fingerprint scanner that is underneath the display. Now this works differently from say something like on the OnePlus 6T because it doesn't need to light up the display underneath your finger in order to read your fingerprint. It's actually using sound waves to go ahead and capture that fingerprint. And so how does this work day to day? Well, it will take a little while to get used to because you have to hit the spot just right and also to you have to make sure the pressure, doesn't sound good, but you also have to make sure the pressure is just right. And so when you are using it, just make sure that you kind of just practice maybe throughout the day. Take a couple minutes just to practice doing it over and over again. And then you'll get used to hitting the right spot and then it'll start to work a lot more for you. For right now, I do think it's in a good place, and with software updates and maybe on future devices, you may have a bigger surface area instead of having just to hit this one spot with your finger. I think in time, this could become the primary way that I use to unlock my phone, but for right now I'm sticking with the facial recognition on the S10 Plus, even though your eyes can still be closed, so technically you can be asleep and somebody can hold your phone over your face and it will unlock. I still want Samsung to change that personally. I still find that to be a lot faster and a lot more reliable. Now, I can't believe I made it this far in the review without talking about the display, because the display on this phone is ridiculous, and ridiculous in a good way, because it is rocking Samsung's latest Infinity O display, which is a HDR10 Plus AMOLED display, which means that really anything you watch back on is going to look great. And then it also has a fantastic screen to body ratio, I think of about 93%, so most of the front of your phone is going to be all display. And so when you're holding this phone while watching a video, it feels like you're just actually holding the video in your hand, and then you pair that with the dual speakers that are on this phone, which are loud and crazy good. You have a really good mobile viewing experience for any type of video content. And so yeah, I know we hear this every year, Samsung has the best display, yada, 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 but it's the truth and I will never get tired of it. So you probably already noticed that this display does not have a notch, and Samsung has elected to go with their hole punch strategy. And so now I do find this to be less distracting than having a full-on notch going on. And so when I'm watching the video, just using this phone normally at all, these are not distracting, so I barely find myself ever seeing them. So yeah, I like this over a notch. And so since we're on the subject of cameras, it's going to talk about how all of the cameras on this phone perform, starting with the front-facing cameras. So on the front, you do have two, but the second one is not really a camera that you can actually control yourself, but it is a depth camera. Not depth, but depth camera. I know I sound like I'm saying the other one. But this one's going to be helping your portrait mode shots, or your live focus selfies is what Samsung calls them. And so I do find it does a better job at cutting you out from the background blur. And then also it performs better in different type of lighting situations. So if I do have the sun like come directly into the camera, I do find that this mode does work better than it did in the past. Now, one thing I did notice is that there's a little bit of a color change when you take just a regular selfie versus a live focus selfie. You can see that the regular selfie has just a little bit more pop to it when it comes to the color. So just notice that maybe if you're trying to post this picture to Instagram, it looks a little bit flat. This is probably what's happening. And Samsung has added a few effects to live focus mode. So now you can do a spinning effect on the background blur. You have one for the zoom, and also two, you can do a color point effect, which will basically cut yourself out in color and then make the background black and white. And also the front-facing camera can now record in 4K, so that video quality has been bumped up, which is nice. Now moving to the back of this phone, you will find a total of 3 rear-facing cameras. You're going to have one that's telephoto, the second one is going to be your wide angle, and the third is going to be the new ultra-wide angle. And so the general performance of all of these cameras is really good all across the board. Now I can't say that the S10 Plus just hands down has the best camera, because there's a lot of good stiff competition out there, but I will say that these cameras do perform well in low light, or if you have plenty of sunlight. I feel that they do handle HDR better, and it seems like Samsung has been a little bit more reserved on the saturation that sometimes they put on their photos to give them more pop. Now the colors look a little bit more natural. And then that ultra wide camera is just something that's fun to use, and I really feel like every single phone that comes out now should have this, just because it really changes the perspective of the photo that you're taking and just really switches up the entire vibe of that picture. So it's pretty fun to play around with, and honestly I just find myself actually using all 3 cameras to take a picture or something, and then I just choose which one is my favorite later. And Samsung has added a new feature called Best Shot that will add a little indicator on the screen to let you know when you have your phone perfectly aligned, and give you a good idea when it's probably a good time to take a picture. So it'll kind of be a little helpful guide to let you know that you're not going to take something that's going to be uneven. And so when it comes to video, this phone does now have a new super steady mode, which is going to give you an extra layer of stabilization for your video. Now this only works with the ultra wide camera, so it automatically switches over to that one when you do enable this, and the performance is really good. I mean, it does a good job if you're trying to be running or moving quickly, or trying to stay behind somebody while you're capturing video, like maybe chasing after a kid or something. It works great for that. And then I was really happy with the way the 4K video came out of all 3 of the cameras, as you can see here.
I just decided to go to law school and handle it myself. Just kidding.
All right, so now let's talk about software real quick, because this S10 Plus does come with Samsung's new One UI, and this is going to be a more streamlined operating system. So when we start using it for the first time, you see that things are easier to navigate, especially on a bigger screen phone like this S10 Plus. And then when I just step back and look at this entire operating system, it is the most complete mobile operating system that you can get right now on a phone. So when you look at the way it handles multitasking, running multiple apps at the same time, your quick access to some of your favorite apps just a one swipe away. You have Samsung Knox, is going to be great security for enterprise. You have Samsung DeX, so you can plug in this phone using a USB-C to HDMI cable to a monitor or TV and be able to run basically a laptop or desktop experience from your phone. And then you have dark mode that you can turn on, and also just with the system management tools to be able to make sure your phone is always running on tip-top shape. And then you have the kids mode for your kids, so they're not going to be ordering things on your account without you knowing. And then you have a bunch of different themes you can use to customize the look of this phone. And you have the new Bixby routines, which will allow the phone to kind of learn your habits and suggest a certain routine for you. So say when you get home from work, you always turn your Wi-Fi on, you turn your brightness back up because you're not worried about your phone dying, or you like to check Facebook and Twitter a lot more when you're home, it can now change the lock screen quick access applications that you have at the bottom to those favorite apps. So all this can be suggested by Bixby, or you can go in and customize your own and make it really how you want it to be. And I just find something this is kind of helpful to do throughout the day to kind of automate your life. And so basically really almost anything that you want to do on a smartphone, the S10 Plus has the software to be able to help you do that. Now, the last thing I'll talk about in this review is going to be the battery, because everything I talked about that this phone could do, what happens with your battery life at the end of the day? Well, I will tell you that I like to keep my display turned up, not all the way up to max, but close, and I keep Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all that stuff on all throughout the day. And if I'm just using it normally, I can easily get through an entire day with this phone. So battery life is pretty solid. And then if you are feeling generous with that extra battery life that you have, this S10 Plus does have a wireless power share feature. So you can actually place another phone or a compatible smartwatch or even the new Galaxy Buds on the back of the phone, and it'll go ahead and start charging it. So don't worry, it will stop charging the other devices on your phone when you get to around 30% on your S10. So it's not going to totally drain your battery, but it's something that's great for if your friend just needs an extra charge in a pinch, it will work for that. And so yeah, that's everything I wanted to show you with this S10 Plus. And just to sum up this review, I would have to say that I normally call the Galaxy Note the best all-around phone whenever it comes out every year. But for right now, I have to say that this S10 Plus is easily the best all-around phone. If you've been thinking about switching from iOS over to Android, this may be the phone to make you do that switch. And if you've been thinking about switching from Android over to iOS, this may make you think twice. So I would just have to say that this phone is really good, and Samsung is off to a good start if this is the first major phone that they're releasing in 2019. I can't wait to see what else comes out. But for right now, this is a phone that I think really will make people feel fine with paying $1,000 for a phone, because that's the price that this starts at. So yeah, the S10 Plus, I'm going to be using it for a little while, definitely until we see what else comes out. But for right now, this is the one to beat. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you for watching this video. Please like it if you do, subscribe if you want to. And like always, I want to thank you for watching, and I will catch you later. Peace.